Hey, so today I thought I'd go through a list of all of the movies that I watched throughout the first quarter of 2023. And not that this needs like a huge explanation, but I just thought I would say that I'm doing this because every other time I've done a list like this, I wait till the end of the year and go through the entire year full of all the movies. And it always ends up in a video that's kind of long and boring if I'm being honest. So let's try this. Let's trial the quarterly list instead. And just by the way, I'm also going to include all of the movies that I've bought in the past few months as well, combining the things that I've watched and bought in one video. Let's just see how it goes, starting off with the movies that I saw in cinemas so far in 2023. So, the first movie that I saw this year in cinemas was Megan, and I reviewed that, so if you are a fan of this channel, you should already know my thoughts. Yeah, it's a silly movie, but it's kind of what you would expect from it. A lot of people complained about Megan, saying that it wasn't violent enough. I disagree. I thought it worked with the PG-13 rating. Not that I really know what the PG-13 rating is because we don't go by that in Australia, but just for the online lingo, everybody kind of goes by the American rating system, so PG-13. In my opinion, it kind of fit the M rating, which is the Australian equivalent of that rating. I thought it fitted with that. It didn't really need to be any more gnarly in my opinion, and it was fun. I liked it quite a bit, so I didn't really have any issues with it. The next movie I saw in cinemas was Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and my god, I had no expectations for this thing going in. I didn't want to see it at all, but my wife really did. Well, actually, she didn't even want to see it like that much. She just thought it looked kind of cute. We're both fans of cats, if you can be fans of an animal. We have 3 cats. We love cats. So we decided to go see Puss in Boots, and it blew me the fuck away. Honestly, one of my favorite movies of this year. Was not expecting to say that at all, but it's so cool. The wolf character, who is literal death, is like the most insanely cool, like animated kids movie character of all time, probably. And it's hilarious and adventurous and all this shit. It's a hell of a good movie. Anyway, next up, I saw The Whale. I saw this movie with my parents, and yeah, it was quite good. My mum hated it. She thought it was really, really boring. I thought it was pretty good, I guess. I didn't love it as much as everybody else, but yeah, you know, Brendan Fraser's good and everything. Then I saw Skinamarink, and Skinamarink is a movie I have such complicated feelings about. I think I liked it, and I don't think I'm ever really gonna know the definitive answer as to whether I did or not. It's just one of those movies, you know? It's not exactly conventional. I think it's safe to say that it's like the least conventional movie I've ever seen in my entire life. Not much happens in it, but it's kind of beautiful in its own way, though. I don't know. Now we are into February, and the next movie I saw in cinemas was Knock at the Cabin. This was a movie that I overall liked, but I had a real problem with the ending being just a really simplified, dumbed-down version of what I think the film could have ended up being, and it really just brought the movie a hell of a lot down for me, in my opinion, and I wasn't a huge fan of it in the end, but it was a pretty great setup, and I was engrossed throughout, so I'm not gonna like totally shit on it, but yeah. Anyway, next up I saw Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and that movie is exactly what you think it is in the best and the worst ways possible. You're gonna get what you think you're gonna get out of it, and for me, I was expecting a bit of fun. I had a bit of fun, but most people really don't like the movie very much, and I can't really blame them for thinking it's bad. It is bad, but bad in a fun way. I think in a way that the filmmakers intended, personally, but I think I'm in the minority there. Then next up I saw Ant-Man 3, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and I thought it was like, alright, it was pretty good. Everyone else apparently agrees, unanimously, that it sucked, and I was kind of the one that missed out on that, I suppose. I thought it was okay, apart from, that guy with his head, it looks stupid. I forgot what the character's name is. I don't care. Anyway, next up, I saw Missing. Is a movie much like Searching, if you've seen that from a few years ago, where the whole film is told from like different screens' points of view, basically. So it's all through like webcams and computer and phone screens and that kind of stuff. And it's about a daughter searching for a missing mother, and it's a hell of a good film, to be honest. It's like this solid little thriller where it's very realistic as to how she kind of uses the tools that are available to her. She's not like some super cop who can do everything. She's just this teenager looking for a mum in very realistic ways, and I really appreciated it. And yeah. Then next up I saw Cocaine Bear, and I'm obsessed with Cocaine Bear. I think it's my second favorite movie of the year so far, but you know, who's counting? I don't know. I'll figure that stuff out at the end of the year when I do my favorite movies. But yeah, Cocaine Bear is one that apparently disappointed a lot of people. They thought there wasn't enough Cocaine Bear in it. I had a lot of fun with it. I thought it had more going for it than just the Cocaine Bear. and then when the Cocaine Bear was on screen, it was a hell of a fun time. Now we're up to March, and the first movie I saw in cinemas in March was Creed 3 with my parents. Apparently I've been seeing a lot of movies with my parents lately. Creed 3 was a pretty solid film. I don't really care about the Creed or Rocky movies all that much, but like, it was a pretty good movie. But I did find this one part particularly funny in Creed 3 where, Adonis Creed and his wife and kid attend a boxing match. They're just watching, supervising, is that the word? Spectating a boxing match. He's not actually fighting in it. And at one point, one of the boxers starts like punching the other boxer particularly hard. And then the mum, Creed's wife, kind of shies the kid's eyes away so that she can't see, the guy punching the other guy at a boxing match. I'm not quite sure what they thought was going to happen at a boxing match, and I just found that particularly funny. But yeah, it's a good movie. I like the weird anime fight scene at the end where everything kind of goes in slow motion and all of the spectators, I remembered the word that time, kind of disappears and everything. There's some cool shit in here, I like it, but it is also very melodramatic. Next up, I saw Of an Age, which is a gay coming-of-age romance film set in Melbourne, Australia, and this was my favourite movie of the year so far. Absolutely love it. I just think it's just beautiful, to be honest. It really, it broke me. It made me happy. It did a lot of things to me. Then the last movie that I saw so far in this year anyway, the 12th movie I've seen in cinemas in March, was Scream 6. And I gotta say, Scream 6 was just about as solid as every other Scream movie. It's probably like middling tier-ish, I guess. I'd probably go like original Scream, Scream 2, then probably Scream 4, Scream 5, Scream 6, maybe there, then Scream 3. But yeah, I don't know. They're all good. I even like Scream 3. Scream 6, I thought was fun, but I did think it was pretty predictable. That was the one thing I really didn't like very much about that one, I have to admit. Now we're on to the 2023 movies that I watched at home. There's not many of those, so let's get to it. The first one I watched was Sick, the horror movie Sick. This was like a kind of COVID Friday the 13th sort of film. It was the kind of movie that had some sort of light commentary on like anti-vaxxers and that kind of thing, but mostly it was just like this fun little slasher film. And I did think that it was interesting once certain motivations were revealed, and I did kind of like where it ended up going. But for the most part, throughout the first half at least of this film, I thought it was quite boring, to be honest, and I wasn't the hugest fan of it. It kind of disappointed me because I had sort of high expectations for this, even though I probably shouldn't have, I know, and I think I'm the only one that had high expectations, but the trailer looked good and I wanted to watch it, and it ended up just being fine. Then the next 2023 movie that I watched at home was You People, that Eddie Murphy and Jonah Hill movie. I ended up thinking that this was better than a lot of other people had thought, based on the reviews and everything that I've seen on Letterboxd and IMDb and stuff, but I did find it pretty problematic in certain ways. Yeah, I had some issues with this movie for sure, but I didn't hate it as much as everybody else. I didn't think it was atrocious, I didn't think it was boring, I didn't think it was just completely horrendously written. I just thought it was a bit simplified in terms of the kind of context that it was trying to explore, and yeah, I wasn't the hugest fan, but it was okay. Then I watched Your Place or Mine, the Ashton Kutcher Reese Witherspoon rom-com that was kind of not that great. I didn't even finish it, if I'm being honest. So does that even count as a movie that I watched this year? I'd say so. Anyway. And now we're up to the older movies that I've watched this year. So any movie that has come out prior to 2023 is included on this list. And all of these were at home, obviously not in cinemas. I mean, maybe not obviously because, sometimes they show like legacy movies in cinemas and stuff. But none of these are that. So let's just get to it. So the first one here is Meet Cute, the Pete Davidson movie that I gotta say I really, really loved. This is a movie that's kind of like this Groundhog Day sort of movie. And it gets sort of dark in some ways, kind of, but mostly it's just like this cute rom-com thing. I don't want to say too much about it, to be honest, because it's kind of going to spoil it, but I gave this like a 9.25 out of 10 I've written down on my phone. I like to rate things out of 10 in my personal list here on my phone, and I do go as kind of meticulous as a 9.25, a 9.5, 9.75, and then a 10. That's just how I like to do it. It kind of bothers me on Letterboxd how you can only go, 1 to 5 and half stars. That's about as specific as you can get. I know that's probably more specific than most people care about, but I like to get really specific just personally because it's hard to rate certain movies in certain ways. Like, how do I rate, I don't know, something I love compared to something I really love, compared to something I love, but maybe not quite as much as the thing I really love, and I don't know. I like to get specific, that's all I'm saying. Then I watched a movie called Curve from 2015. This is a movie about a woman who gets, she doesn't get abducted, but she picks up a hitchhiker. Things go badly, okay? I'm just going to say that. And I thought that it was a pretty bad movie, to be honest. Then I watched Jewel from last year, 2022 film about a clone woman, a woman who clones herself because she is dying, then she finds out that she is not dying, and in this sci-fi world where they can clone people, it turns out that you cannot have duplicates, and if the two duplicates decide that they both want to live, they have to fight to the death. And basically the whole movie is this setup of training this woman to fight herself to death, and it's awkward and brilliant for that. It's kind of a weird deadpan but hilarious film that's not quite as actiony as it sounds based on that premise. This is kind of like this, it's more of a dramedy, if anything. If I had to give it some sort of genre and slap a genre right on there, I guess it's a dramedy, I suppose. Then I watched a movie called Save Yourselves from 2020. This is a movie about people who give up their phones for like the weekend or whatever, but that weekend happens to coincidentally be when the apocalypse hits. And basically it's about them finding this stuff out. It's kind of like this cute comedy, but it's middling. It's fine. Then I watched a movie called Trespassers from 2018. I thought it was pretty shit. That's all I'm about to say about it, really. I don't like to shit on movies. I don't want to talk too much about why it was bad, but you could just tell it was a very low-budgeted, not very well-made film, and I don't know. I don't remember that much specifically about it. If I'm being honest, this was in January, and it was just that forgettable, if I'm being honest. Not that I want to shit on this movie very much, but yeah, anyway, let's get to the next one. Next up, I watched one called Looks That Kill from 2020 about a guy who was apparently so good looking that he must wear bandages over his face, otherwise anyone who sees his such a good looking face will automatically die. And it's got Justin Foley in it from 13 Reasons Why. I don't know the actor's name, I know the character's name. He was the best character on 13 Reasons Why. Got the short end of the stick at the end of that fucking series. Anyway, this movie was okay. Next up, I watched a movie called Assassination Nation. This is made by the guy, I forgot his name, but the director that made Euphoria, and I thought it was pretty bad, to be honest. I was really disappointed too, because I love his other works in, like I said, Euphoria, and Malcolm and Marie is a movie that I really, really enjoy, which he also directed, but Assassination Nation just did not do it for me. Then I watched a movie called The Last Shift from 2020, and I gotta be honest, I don't remember what that is. Yes, I do. It's about an old man working at like not a Macca's, but like just like a fast food store, but that's one. It's not a chain. It's just like this one mum and pop kind of fast food store. And it's basically just about him like on the verge of retiring and training his replacement, which sounds super boring. And it kind of was a little bit boring, but I thought this movie was alright. I kind of liked it. And I watched White Noise, the Adam Driver film that came out last year. And I hated this movie. I watched it and literally 5 minutes later, as the credits were rolling, I could not have told you what the film was about. I couldn't have. I really couldn't have. It was so scatterbrained, if that makes any sense. It's like 1 minute it's this apocalyptic film, then the next minute it's like this weird comedy drama about his wife cheating on him, and then other times it's about, I don't know, they're dancing at a supermarket and stuff. Things happen. Things happen in the movie, and I didn't really appreciate much of it, except for the one part where they're driving their car and they accidentally like drive into a river, and as they're in there floating away in the car, obviously they do not have control, but Adam Driver keeps steering to no avail. And that tickled me for some reason. Anyway, the next movie I watched was called The Road Within from 2014. This was about a couple of disabled kids, like teenagers, who kind of escaped from their, I don't know what the proper word for it is, but where they're basically being looked after. The main character has severe Tourette's, another character has severe OCD, and then they are joined along with a girl, and I don't remember her condition. But basically, it's about these kids just wanting to escape. It's like a coming of age story where they're just going on this fun little adventure, this fun little road trip, and it's just kind of like this cute little story that I liked quite a bit. Then I watched a movie called Unpregnant from 2020. This is about two teenage girls who again go on a road trip. It was road trip movie time here apparently in January. But this movie is about these two teenage girls who have to go to another state in America because where they're from, I guess abortions are illegal, and so they have to go to a different state state to get an abortion, basically, and it was fantastic. This is a great movie. It's basically more about just their friendship than anything else, and the wild shenanigans that they find themselves in, I guess, along the way, and all that kind of stuff. I loved this movie. I straight up loved it. Then I watched a movie called Maniac Cop from 1988, based on a true story. This is about not really. This is about a supernatural, I guess, killer policeman who wreaks havoc on the city of New York, and it's really silly and really pretty bad, to be honest. I mean, I was expecting it to be silly and cheesy and a dumb horror movie, but I wasn't expecting it to be as bad as it was. I ended up giving this a 3.5 out of 10. That's how bad it was. Then I watched a movie called Together. This is from 2021, in the midst of COVID and lockdowns and all that stuff. That's very much what this movie is about, and it stars James McAvoy as he kind of just argues with his wife during COVID, to be honest. That's mainly what this movie is. It's kind of like Marriage Story, but set during COVID. And my God, I loved this movie, to be honest. It was hilarious. It was really like, the characters were just really charismatic, intelligent people. There were really, really sad moments. There were really hilarious moments and darkly hilarious moments as well. There was just a lot in here that was really for me, to be honest. There's just a lot of really quick, intelligent dialogue being thrown at each character and everything. And yeah, I gave this one a 9.25 out of 10. I'm not going to say all of my ratings. Obviously, I haven't been so far, but for some of the outstanding ones, I'll just tell you here. Anyway, then I watched a movie called Sliding Doors from 1998 with Gwyneth Paltrow, and it is about two aligning possibilities on a timeline. Basically, it's about whether or not she made a train or not. If she didn't make the train, her life could have turned out one way. If she did make the train, her life could have turned out another way. And it's an interesting concept that they don't do a whole lot with, to be honest. It's super straightforward, you know, considering that concept. And it disappointed me. It disappointed me, even though this is a movie that came out, 25 years ago, but here we are. Then I watched a movie called After Yang from 2021. This is a movie that I've heard nothing but great things about, and I was not a huge fan of this one, I'm sorry. Not even the scene where he was talking about tea, really. Everybody raves and raves about the scene where he is talking about his passion for tea in this film, because he's like this tea aficionado guy, and the film also revolves around AI and like robots and stuff, but it doesn't do a whole lot with that premise either. And I ended up just thinking this movie was really, really boring. And I always feel like an idiot when I criticize movies and say that they were just boring. That makes me feel like a child. Like, I want it to be more exciting. And trust me, it's not like that. It's not like I need action. It's not like, you know, like, it's kind of like Before Sunset, Before Sunrise. Those movies are not full of action, but I fucking love them. After Yang, I didn't. So whatever the differentiation there is, I don't know. But yeah. Then next up, I watched a movie called Scare Package 2. This came out in 2022. It's meant to be like this very meta kind of horror comedy that it just continuously makes references and talks about other horror films. And I do kind of like that. And part of this film was kind of parodying Saw, the Saw franchise, which is just straight up my alley. But there was something about this movie that felt like it came straight out of like 2006. It just felt kind of outdated, and I wasn't very impressed by it, to be honest. I gave this only a 4 out of 10. Then I watched a movie called 4 Good Days with Mila Kunis. This is about a woman who is addicted to drugs and just trying to make it past this arbitrary kind of time, like this timeline here where she has to prove that she hasn't taken drugs in however long, couple weeks, I guess 4 days. She has 4 days left by the time she gets to her mother's house. She has to continue not being on drugs for those 4 days. She has to have 4 good days so that she can be taken into rehab, basically. Otherwise, they're not going to waste their time on her. But I gotta say, this movie ended up being pretty melodramatic and pretty preachy, like just, drugs are bad, okay, just over and over again. And I get that you have to kind of take a certain responsibility when you're making a film like this. But this one ended up just being a little bit, I don't know, yeah, just preachy, like I said. It didn't end up being that great in my opinion. The acting was good and stuff, I don't know. Then I watched a movie called Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes from 2020. And this, if I'm talking about movies that came out before 2023, this might be my favorite movie that I've watched this year so far. This is a film about a guy who discovers that he can kind of time travel in a way through a laptop screen. He can see into the future and learn certain things, but only 2 minutes into the future. But then he learns about a little glitch that he can exploit. When he shows another camera in front of that camera and it kind of duplicates, he can now look 4 minutes into the future, and so on and so on. And basically, this film is like this fun little adventure that him and his friends take just within their apartment. It's like this wild sci-fi fantasy, but it's like a super low budget film that clearly just some friends made in like their apartment or whatever. It's not the greatest like filmmaking you've ever seen. It will make you question certain things about how they actually pulled things off. It's impressive in its own way, and it's also like a movie that doesn't take itself way too seriously. It's just a really fun movie that clearly has a lot of passion behind it, and so do I. I have a lot of passion behind this film. I fucking loved it so much. Next up, now we are up to February, by the way. I watched The Kid Detective from 2020. I've heard nothing but good things about this movie as well. I ended up thinking it was okay. Then I watched a movie called Be Cool from 2005, just because, I don't know, it had Vince Vaughn in it, and it looked like it might have been like one of those kind of cheap Tarantino ripoffs. That's sort of what it looked like. Anyway, I started it, and I found out that this was actually a sequel to another movie that I have not seen, but I did watch the show that was based off this movie. So I kind of had enough knowledge, I suppose. Anyway, I didn't love the movie, but I don't think that's because I didn't get it. I think it's just because it wasn't that good. Then next up, I watched Ace Ventura for the first time. Yes, the 1994 Jim Carrey comedy was watched by me for the very first time. I ended up thinking that it was okay. Jim Carrey's really good in it. Like, his kind of elastic, wild performance. You know, he's a pretty funny guy. I don't think that that's a controversial thing to say. But what is a controversial thing to say is that the ending of this film is handled well in any way at all. Because, my God, it's not. Yeah, so this movie is good for about 70% of it. You know, good. When I say good, it's okay. It's alright for about 70% of the film. Then it gets wildly transphobic at the end. Wildly transphobic. And, yeah, man. Oh, man. It's a rough watch by the end of this film, I gotta say. Anyway, then I watched Ace Ventura 2 thinking, well, you know, some time passed. What year did this come out? I didn't write that down. I'm like, some time passed. You know, maybe they matured. Ace Ventura 2 is not so wildly transphobic, I guess, not in the same way, but it's so much more zany. Like, and watching the first Ace Ventura, you wouldn't think that they could get any more zany and cartoony than they already are at. But 2 just ups the ante and gets even worse than that, and it's just like unbelievably annoying to watch this guy the entire time, honestly. I ended up giving Ace Ventura 2 only a 5 out of 10. I enjoyed it okay, but it's just such an irritating movie and franchise, I suppose. Then I watched a movie called The Humans from 2021. This is another clearly like COVID-centric film where the movie's not about COVID, but clearly they made it during COVID because it's all set in one apartment. This has Stephen Ewan, pretty much the only reason I wanted to watch this film, and I gotta be honest, wasn't a huge fan. Then I watched Minions 2 from 2022. Yeah, you know, it was Minions. I don't know what you want me to tell you. It was Minions 2. It was okay. These movies are better than they have any right to be. I hate to admit that. I hate to say that. I do think that they're kind of clever. They're well animated and all that shit. The Minions themselves are so irritating, much like Ace Ventura, but I don't know. It is what it is, you know. You go in expecting that, I suppose. I watched this because I actually like the Despicable Me movies. I really do. The first 2, at least. They're pretty good. Minions, you know, not as good. But like I said, it is what it is. Now we are up to March of the older films. And so the first one that I watched was Creed 2 from 2018. After having seen Creed 3 with my parents, I went back and watched Creed 2, which was a movie that I hadn't seen before. And yeah, it's pretty much as solid as Creed 1 and Creed 3. So yeah, I really like the ending of it though, with Drago and the choice that he makes. Anyway, next up I saw The Banshees of Inisherin from last year. One of the Oscar contenders that did not win. But I ended up controversially only giving this a 6.75 out of 10 on my personal list here. Man, I wasn't a huge fan of Banshees, to be honest. I liked the start. I thought it was kind of a light comedy that I was enjoying. Then it ended up just going nowhere, and I didn't really appreciate it. I didn't really get this movie, I think. I looked things up. Apparently it might be some sort of, you know, allegory for the Civil War in Ireland, which I don't know too much about. Or it also might be some sort of a ghost story, because it gets sort of paranormal. There's like a witchy type type lady in there, and I don't know, man, it just didn't work for me. Then I watched a movie called Emily the Criminal from last year, 2022, and man, this is a solid film. What I would say about Emily the Criminal is if you've always wanted to watch Breaking Bad, but you just haven't had enough time because what a commitment, you know, watching a whole ass TV show is such a commitment, and I get that. But if you've ever wanted to watch Breaking Bad in only about an hour and a half, Emily the Criminal is about as good as you can get. It is Breaking Bad in bite-sized form, and it's pretty solid. Then I watched a movie called True Story. This is the Jonah Hill, James Franco film about a alleged murderer who takes the identity of a reporter, and basically it's about them meeting and forming kind of a friendship as well. And it's kind of like this disturbing true story that I thought was pretty solid, to be honest. Then I watched a movie called Baby Teeth. And controversially, because I haven't really heard anything but good things about this film, I didn't really like it, to be honest, and that's all that I really have to say. Then I watched a movie called Winter's Bone with Jennifer Lawrence. This was from about 2011 or so, I believe. I didn't write the freaking year down for some reason. Not a fan of this one either, to be honest. Then I watched a movie called The Favourite from, I believe, 2018, and it was the best movie I watched that night. I watched Baby Teeth, Winter's Bone, and The Favourite all in one night. Each film got better than the last, but I never ended up loving any of them. Then I watched a movie called Man from Nowhere. This was recommended and sent to me. The DVD was sent to me by my friend Tristan at the Martial Arts Film Freak YouTube channel. I ended up not liking it quite as much as I think he likes it, but it was pretty solid. There's one of the best freaking knife martial arts fight scenes in a film that I've ever seen, and there were some really hard-hitting moments in this film as well that hit me so much more emotionally than I was ready for. But overall, I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but I was pretty invested by the end, if that makes any sense, and I do think it's pretty solid. I'd recommend watching it if it seems like your kind of thing. Then I watched Clerks 3. For some reason, I keep watching all the Kevin Smith movies. I felt like I only had a few more Kevin Smith movies to watch until I've covered his entire filmography. So I decided, fuck it, let's watch it. Let's watch Clerks 3, and it ended up being probably my favorite Kevin Smith movie, if I'm being honest. This was like a way more mature film than Clerks 2, Clerks 1, or any of his other movies, really. I actually liked it. I was surprised that I liked it quite a bit because I've heard that it's kind of an absurd film, like, given what happens. But really what it is just super autobiographical and way too personal, but in a way that I liked, personally. Then I watched another Kevin Smith movie, Yoga Hosers, which was just atrocious, and I didn't finish it. Then I watched a movie called Hidden Figures from 2016. This is about 3 black women in the 50s or 60s-ish era. When did they land on the moon? I know this stuff, shut up. 69, woohoo, okay. Yeah, okay, so then I watched a movie called Hidden Bodies, which was based in like the 60s or whatever, about 3 black women who assisted in helping NASA get the first man on the moon and all that stuff. And yeah, it's a fantastic movie that I should have seen years ago, but I don't know, I didn't watch it till now, and it was pretty good. Then I watched a movie called Ingrid Goes West. This stars Aubrey Plaza, about basically this female stalker who follows like somebody on social media, decides to go live near her, and just copy everything she does, sort of, in a really creepy way, intending to be her friend, and then eventually being her friend, and it all kind of comes crashing down from there. And I thought that it was a really solid film. I liked it quite a bit. Then, now we're up to the rewatches. These are the rewatched movies that I've rewatched in 2023. First up is the first Puss in Boots, after I watched Puss in Boots The Last Wish, not before, because I'm bad at preparing, apparently. But yeah, I watched the first Puss in Boots, and not as good as Last Wish. Not even close, to be honest, but yeah, you know, it was alright. Then I rewatched a movie called Nerve. We're already in February. I don't rewatch a lot of movies. This is a movie about kind of like this kind of deadly killer game where you have to do dares and stuff, but it's not really that deadly. People do dares on a social media app to win money, and some of them get dangerous, and it gets more and more dangerous as the dares go on. Kind of like this teenage sort of drama film, and it's alright. I like it quite a bit. Then I watched Happy Gilmore for the first time in who the fuck knows how long. I haven't seen this movie since I was a kid. And yeah, like, it's good, you know, it's funny. Then I watched The Menu. I rewatched The Menu. I watched this with my parents to show them because it's my favorite movie from 2022. I thought it was worth showing them. I thought it was worth rewatching. Liked it just as much as I liked it the first time. Then I watched Despicable Me and Despicable Me 2. As I said, I watched Minions 2. I also watched these movies. And yeah, I like them. I like them a lot, to be honest. Despicable Me and 2. yeah, they're so much better than you probably think that they are. If you haven't actually seen these movies, they're actually pretty good. Then I watched Orphan 2. I rewatched Orphan 2 since having seen it last year. Again, to show my mum, because we watched the first Orphan movie last year. I showed her that movie when I saw it, and when I saw Orphan 2 last year. Now that Orphan 2 is out, I thought I would show her the prequel, and I think that she thought it was one of the dumbest things she's ever seen, but it was fun. Now we're up to the TV shows. First up, I watched Murderville, Who Killed Santa special. A bit late after Christmas, but here we are. I only gave this like a 3 out of 10 because, man, I thought this special, whatever it's called, was kind of embarrassing. It was kind of cringe. It was not funny in the slightest, in my opinion. Sorry. Then I watched Scrubs from season 5 onwards because I had watched Scrubs season 1 to 4 last year. Scrubs is one of my favourite shows of all time. I've watched it at least 10 times and, oh man, it's just as good even still to this day. It just finds a way to be emotionally hard-hitting with pretty much every single episode while being funny, while also being a bit outdated. In some ways, if we're being honest, it's not the most woke show of all time in today's climate. Sometimes it gets a little bit like, oh, damn it, I wish they didn't say that. But yeah, apart from some moments like these, I think that this show is phenomenal still. It still holds up to this day. I love it so much. Then I watched Ozark seasons 3 to 4, and I'm still watching that. I haven't finished season 4 yet. I know it finished like a year or longer ago, but it's TV. I'm always behind on TV. This is nothing new. Then I watched The Last of Us TV show, of course. And yeah, it was a good show, but I just can't do it. I can't do it compared to the game. The game is always going to be better, and now I sound like one of those annoying people where it's like, the book was better, but it's true, the game was better. The show, like, if I hadn't played the game prior, maybe I would have loved the show. I feel like maybe, though, I probably wouldn't have cared about the show quite as much. I just loved the game, and the show was good, and I'm glad everybody loved it. I'm glad that it kind of hit as big as it did. I'm looking forward to season 2 so much. But the game is just so much better. Anyway, then I watched Nathan For You. This was a rewatch because I watched Nathan For You for the first time only last year. One of my favorite comedy shows ever. About this guy, Nathan Fielder, who just does these weird social experiments. In Nathan For You, he pretends, I guess, like he's helping certain businesses. He comes in to assist them with these wild ideas. They are always impractical, they are always absurd, and the people, like the shop workers or whoever it is, goes along with them, thinking that he is genuinely trying to help. And you feel kind of bad for him. You do, because he's kind of fucking with them. He knows that these ideas aren't good. Based on what I'm saying right now, it sounds like a boring show, I know, but oh my god, it's not. Then I watched a TV show called Fleabag, and I did not finish this either. It was just kind of one of those shows that felt like it was a bit like, it's Wednesday, it's wine day or something. I don't know. There was just something about this show I didn't like. I thought that the main character was kind of just this person who's horrible to everybody. And I know that that's supposed to be in a realistic and relatable way, but I just didn't enjoy her judging everybody, shitting on everyone, making fun of them and all that stuff. I just thought she was mean to everybody, and I didn't really appreciate it in some certain ways. I thought there were good moments in here. I didn't think it was horrible, but it just wasn't really a show for me. It was, I don't know. I can say it, being a man, it wasn't really written with me in mind, and that's okay. I'm glad that it's probably for other people, primarily women, I'm guessing. But to me, Fleabag just didn't hit right. I just didn't enjoy it very much. I just felt kind of out of place. It just felt like it wasn't for me. You know what I mean? Then I watched a show called The Movies That Made Us, or a couple episodes of this show anyway. I think I've seen most of them now. This is just a show on Netflix. You've probably heard of it, right? Where they go through the certain making of films. I watched the Elf episode. I watched the Friday the 13th episode and Elm Street episode. There's a bunch of episodes. It's pretty good. This show is actually edited really well as well. Like, it's just like frantic and really, really fast paced as they go through the entire thing. Like, there's just not really a wasted second in this thing. I enjoy it for that. I also watched Cursed Films, which is very similar, but it is about darker movies. It's more about like disturbing films and about on-set like disasters and that sort of thing. But this one takes itself a little too seriously, I guess, given the subject matter you have to. But I don't know, it's not as enjoyable as the movies that made us, in my opinion, but it's still well made. Then we are up to February now. I watched You Season 4, which I was a pretty big fan of. You know, not as big a fan of this season as the previous ones, if I'm being honest, but it's always fun seeing Joe Goldberg go through his shit, just fuck everything up time and time again and see how he gets out of it, because he does every time as well. I enjoy it. And I'm also currently even still watching the Australian 2023 Survivor season that is currently taking place. What an ending, because this has just ended by the time I put this video up. What a wild ending. Yeah, I haven't actually seen the ending yet because it hasn't ended. It has a couple episodes to go still. I love Australian Survivor. I do. Okay, I know it's trashy reality TV, maybe. That might be how you view it. But I love it. I love it, damn it. And you can't change my mind. Then I also watched a TV show called Kunk on Earth. This is kind of like Nathan For You, as it's kind of like this fake documentary. And it's pretty much about this woman telling us the history of Earth, but getting lots and lots of facts wrong. But like, it's on purpose. She's playing a character and it's very funny. One particular joke that I remember from this show, just in particular, just randomly off the top of my head, like, for example, she purposely gets things wrong and she calls the Titanic the Titan 1C. Misreading what it's called. And me explaining it doesn't sound that funny, but it was really funny at the time, believe me. Okay, and that is everything that I've watched so far in the first quarter of 2023. Now, I'm going to get to the movies and stuff that I've bought in the start of 2023. Starting off with 4Ks. So I have a total of, I believe, 14 4Ks now. That's it. I know, I've got all these Blu-rays, got hardly any 4Ks. Anyway, I have upped my game quite a bit at this very moment though. So, first up is The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. This is easily the worst of the Conjuring films, not the franchise, just the Conjuring titled films. This is probably the third best Conjuring film. Oh, maybe Annabelle Creation and Annabelle Comes Home is better, but either way, definitely not as good as the first two Conjuring films. James Wan did not direct this one, and so it is just, you know, it pains me to not see James Wan directing a Conjuring film. Not as good, but it's still strong. It's still alright. Is it strong? I don't know if it's strong, but it's still alright. And yeah, I got the special 4K, so that's kind of exciting. I actually just watched the special features of it the other night. Then next up I got, and this was actually, if I'm being honest, just the end of 2022, but I never talked about it on the channel, so I thought I brought it up. My wife bought me the first trilogy for Christmas, actually, of the Purge films on 4K. And yeah, these are really the only Purge films that matter, the only ones that count. I think the first Purge, being the fourth film in the series, not the first Purge as in the original Purge as in this one, but the fourth film called The First Purge, is the worst of the series. I don't really want to own that one. As goes with the Forever Purge, the fifth film. I think that they are both pretty atrocious. I think that they just, I don't like them. But I like the first three quite a bit, especially Anarchy. The second Purge film, Anarchy, is just, oh man, if you're only going to watch one Purge film in your life, you have that arbitrary rule for some reason. Make it Anarchy. Then I also watched, and I still have the stickers here because I haven't taken it out, but I bought Turning Red, my second favorite movie of 2022. Yeah, as I said, still in the packaging and everything. But yeah, I got a bunch of these movies, just by the way. A bunch of Blu-rays that I'm about to get through as well. At like the very end of the year, start of the year time when the sales and stuff were still on after Christmas. Yeah, so I know that a couple of months have passed since then, but I haven't talked about them on the channel, so I thought I would. But yeah, I ended up having gift cards and everything from Christmas still, and I got like $200 worth of Blu-rays or some shit without paying a cent. It was just brilliant. Then I also got fucking Dolittle, which I haven't seen this movie, to be honest, but as you can see, it was only $5 on that sticker right there. My wife got this for me, to be honest, because she was just shopping and looked at some cheap movies for me. She just happened to be around some movies. She's like, Dolittle, you know, it's $5. It's a 4K for $5. You can't really say no to that. She knows I would be excited by the 4K, even if I'm not particularly excited by the movie itself. But yeah, then I also got Suicide Squad Hell to Pay, which is an animated film which I have not seen, but again, I got this for $1 actually at an op shop. It says 3 on the sticker, and I think they charged me wrong. I don't know, but I ended up getting this for $1, and I was ecstatic about that. I got a 4K for $1. Then I also got Justice League on 4K. I believe this is the bad version. I don't think this is the Zack Snyder version, but I'm not 100% sure. It does say a Zack Snyder film, a production by Zack Snyder. But I'm pretty sure, because it also says that the runtime is only 119 minutes. So I think it's the original version. But I'm not 100% sure. I haven't watched it yet, so yeah, I probably won't watch it for at least a very long time, if I'm being honest. Anyway, moving on to the Blu-rays. Okay, so a bulk of these Blu-rays are the ones that I actually bought on that sale after Christmas with my gift card and everything. That was an exciting day. Anyway, so first up, I got El Camino, the Breaking Bad kind of sequel film that they made after the fact, and I gotta say, it's good. You know, Vince Gilligan and everything made it after Breaking Bad, so it's not terrible. It still has the Breaking Bad heart in there. But this film, controversially in my opinion, kind of breaks the Jesse Pinkman character a little bit. I might make a whole video just talking about this and getting into actual details. But I think that El Camino kind of ruins things a little bit. I thought it was unnecessary as well, just because we just didn't really need it. But I do think that it's still good, and I did want to still own it and complete my Breaking Bad collection, you know. Even though I still don't have all of Better Call Saul, but you know, that's a whole other thing. Anyway, then I got The Batman, one of the best movies that came out last year, one of the best Batman movies of all time as well, if you ask me. Then I got Gunpowder Milkshake, which is a movie that I fucking love. I don't think a lot of other people love this movie, not as much as I do anyway, but this is one of the best action movies fucking ever, if you ask me. I don't know, maybe you're gonna look at that as being an exaggeration, you're gonna look at that as being like, what about this, what about this, what about The Matrix, Terminator, I don't know, Mission Impossible, or some shit like that, whatever thing that's coming into your mind right now, fine, that's probably great as well. But so is Gunpowder Milkshake, I'm telling you, it's underrated as hell. Then I also got Everything Everywhere All at Once. Speaking of great films, this is obviously the one that won Best Picture, which was weird, because this does not seem like the Academy's bag. This just does not seem like the kind of thing that they would like. I thought it was a bizarre choice. Kind of felt like a movie that they felt like they had to pick, but didn't actually think was the best. I don't know, I think something fishy was going on there. Like, what about Everything Everywhere did the people that voted for, like, Green Book and whatever else other years, what the fuck did they like about Everything Everywhere All at Once? I just don't buy it. Come on, what are you talking about? It just seems weird. It seems inconsistent, but I'm glad it happened because it fucking deserved it. And yeah, Everything Everywhere is... oh, it's so good. That's not a hot take to say. Everybody thinks it's so good, but it's just so good it needs to be said. Then I also got Sound of Metal, which I probably like even more than Everything Everywhere All at Once, to be honest. This is honestly one of my favorite movies of all time, so I definitely had to get it. Oh, sorry for the crinkly sounds. They're all still in the wrappers, and this disc is loose. But I also got the Last Night in Soho, the most recent still Edgar Wright film that I think is phenomenal. Then I also got The King of Staten Island, which is a pretty good kind of just dramedy, Judd Apatow and Pete Davidson film that is good but too long and stuff, you know, like how his movies kind of always are. Then I also got The Black Phone for, as you can see, the price on the sticker right there, for $10. Pretty good for a pretty brand new film. This only just came out on Blu-ray, at least pretty recently, didn't it? Maybe a few months ago, I don't know, something like that. But yeah, still a pretty new film, a pretty good one too. Then I got Men in Black International for $2.60, pretty cheap right there. People do not love this movie. I had fun with it, I like it. Then I also got The Secret Life of Pets 2, which I don't think I've actually even seen, but I got it for $3.25. I'm not going to say no to a Blu-ray for $3.25, I'm sorry, I'm just not. Then I also got I Give It a Year, which is kind of like this anti-rom-com. It's like a rom-com in reverse, and I'm a big fan of it. Now let's get to the upgrades. So the upgrades are movies that I already had on DVD that I then bought on 4K or Blu-ray. And so yeah, the first one is The Butterfly Effect, which I think is, oh man, I just keep saying this for a bunch of the movies, but maybe one of my favorite films, maybe, I don't know. Probably not one of my favorite films, but it probably makes it in there as like in my top 100 favorite films anyway. This is underrated. I think a lot of people don't exactly respect it because it's got Ashton Kutcher in it, and you know, coming out in the early 2000s, it looks like one of those shitty, like MTV type of movies, you know, it was just made for teenagers and stuff and kind of bad, but no, man, this is honestly a really disturbing film, okay? I'm being honest when I say that. I think The Butterfly Effect is an effectively disturbing film about time travel, the consequences of it, and it's great. It's really great. Then I also bought Talladega Nights, the Will Ferrell movie from like 2005 or so, I want to say. I'm not like the biggest fan of this movie, but yeah, I like it enough, so yeah, I got it on Blu-ray. I already had it on DVD. Speaking of, I also got The Grinch, the Jim Carrey Grinch for $1. And yeah, you know, That's good. It's a good Christmas classic. Then I got Easy A. You can clearly see this is one of those early kind of Blu-rays because it has the compatible on PlayStation 3 stickers right there. I got this for $1 as well. Then I also got Safe Haven, which is kind of one of those Nicholas Sparksy drama romance films from like 2009, 2010, 11, 12, 13. That era of movies. A bunch of these romance movies came out. I've seen a lot of them because my wife is a pretty big fan of these movies because they're mostly all based on books, I believe this one is. Yes, from the author of The Notebook. So yes, this is a Nicholas Sparks based film, and one of the better ones, I reckon Safe Haven is. Then I also got Venom Let There Be Carnage for $7 on 4K. I did already have this on Blu-ray, but I ended up getting the 4K because, come on, that's pretty good for a 4K. And I also got Iron Man 2 on 4K for, I believe, just a few dollars as well. Exciting stuff when you get 4Ks for just a few dollars, at least in my world. Now let's get on to some of the DVDs I got. Okay, I know this video is going on pretty long, but we are nearly at the end, so the first DVD I've got here that I've got to mention is I got Rocket Man on DVD for $2. Sticker, I know, it's covering his face. I haven't taken it off yet. What do you want me to do about it? Then I got, well, I could take the... I could take it off, couldn't I? Anyway, then I got Kubo on 2 Strings, which I still have not seen. I know it's like quite a few years old at this point. This came out in, I believe, 2016, maybe? Still haven't seen it. I'm sorry, I have no excuse because I literally own it now, but... here we are. Then I also got Jurassic World Dominion, the newest Jurassic World. I got this for, I believe, yep, $1 right there on the back. I got, yeah, the new Jurassic World film for just $1. I was ecstatic about that. This was at just like an op shop. And I believe it's a real copy. It looks pretty legit. You know, I don't know. If this is some sort of bootleg copy and I got ripped off or something, well, I didn't get ripped off that bad. It was just $1, so whatever. But looks good to me. I'm happy with it on my shelf. Then I also got Werewolves Within for only $4, and this is a great film that's apparently based on a video game, which I didn't know when I first watched it. And yeah, it's good. It's like this kind of mystery horror comedy. I love it. Then I got Dinner in America for apparently $5 on that sticker, but this was one of those movies that I got when I was saying how I used the gift card on that sale, and this was actually like a certain amount of percent off. Was it 50% off? Did I get this for $2.50? I don't know. I only got this for like a few dollars, and technically I didn't even pay those dollars because it was on a gift card. And yeah, this is one of the most underrated films that I highly recommend. If you've ever listened to a podcast called The Film Vault, Anderson from that podcast, oh my god, he's ecstatic, insane about this film, hasn't shut the fuck up about it, and made me really want to watch it, and that's why I watched it, and by god, he was right. It's a great movie. Then I also bought Kajillionaire for just a few dollars as well, and that's a pretty good movie as well. Now let's get on to TV shows that I bought. Okay, so the first TV show that I bought, just on Blu-ray, the rest are DVDs, is Dexter New Blood. I've been wanting to own this since, you know, Dexter New Blood first aired, but I didn't buy it until now because of that, again, the gift card and the sale didn't happen. I also got this that day. Yeah, been wanting this for like a year, and I'm glad that I finally have it. And I'm excited to watch the special features on this thing as well. That is something that I definitely need to check out. I know that Dexter and Dexter New Blood, it's kind of got a bad taste, kind of left a bad taste in everybody's mouths because of the ending. I kind of relate, I kind of get that, but I'm still such a big fan of Dexter, and yeah, I'm glad that I own it and have completed my collection. Then I got The Haunting of Hill House and The Haunting of Bly Manor, which are just some of the best TV shows of all time, directed by Mike Flanagan, or at least... the first episode of Bly Manor is directed by Mike Flanagan. All of Hill House is directed by him. Yeah, some of the best TV shows I've ever seen in my life. Compete heavily with any movie I've ever seen in my life as well. Just some of my favorite fucking media that's ever existed, these two. I love them so much. Indescribably. You know, I love them. Okay, so now the last category, I got a couple VHS tapes, and I got Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, and they're a little bit dirty and old and stuff, but, you know, that's kind of the thing when you're buying VHS tapes, you know, you kind of go in expecting that. I don't know if these are worth any amount of money. I don't think they are, to be honest. You know, it's not like Tarantino's movies are exactly like, obscure or anything. Probably a bunch of people in the world own these copies, these exact sort of VHS copies, but, well, now I do as well. I think they're kind of cool. They're like these retro things that I like having on the shelf. Do I have a VHS player? VCR, whatever, old school? No, I do not. It's totally impractical. I don't need these. They're just for decoration. and I don't mind that. That's not bad at all. And that is everything that I watched this year and bought this year and all that stuff this year so far in the first quarter from January to March, obviously, of 2023. That's all, everything that I have to say. And that's it. So yeah, if you're still watching this, sorry it went for so long. I thought it was going to be shorter than this, but here we are. But thank you for still watching. I really appreciate it. But I'm going to go now. Before you go though, please do the thing to like, share, subscribe, all that shit. But now, I'm outie. Goodbye.